the 15 strangest places where people actually live. Unlike most of us who never get to pass through such situations in a lifetime, some people adapt to the way they live because of survival instinct. Unfortunate and unpleasant circumstances, or just because of people's super creepy nature, people choose to be in living conditions that are completely strange. More precisely, it's a collection of the strangest places we found where people have lived. It is a short demonstration of the dynamic relationship that humans develop with their surrounding environment and the way in which people adapt and shape their environment according to their own needs. You will realize that humans by nature are as resilient and flexible as it can get when it comes to adapting to living in strange places. Over the years, people have often been fascinated by human beings who live in ways that challenge the norm, whether a matter of survival, unfortunate circumstances, or just being super creepy. Some people don't live quite like the rest of us do. In this section, we'll walk you through the strangest places people have lived intentionally, or where they lived if they were in unfortunate situations. Stay around to see more. Number 15. With a dead body. A woman in Michigan lived with her dead roommate's body for up to 18 months because she was lonely. Charles Ziegler was 67 years old and suffering from emphysema when he passed away. Instead of reporting his death, Ziegler's 70-year-old friend Linda Chase, with whom he'd lived for 10 years, propped his body up in a chair in front of the television. She kept the body clean and dressed and talked to the mummified remains while watching NASCAR. Number 14. In a cave. A 56-year-old man in New Mexico was found living in a cave on property that belonged to the Department of Energy. Roy Moore's makeshift abode was equipped with a bed, front door, wood-burning stove, solar panels, and satellite radio. He'd been living in the cave for 4 years without being detected. Smoke from the stove finally drew the attention of the authorities, who also discovered marijuana plants on the property. Moore and his belongings were removed, and he was charged with misdemeanor drug offenses. Number 13. In the jungle. An 8-year-old Cambodian girl who disappeared with her sister was found living in the wild after 19 years. A villager saw Rosman Piangyang emerge naked from the jungle and attempt to steal his rice. He described her as half human and half animal. According to police, she had no intelligible speech. The villager and his friends caught the woman, whose father identified her by the scars on her arms. 12. In a mini apartment. A 50-year-old man in Paris was found living in a small room with a slanted ceiling which only had 1.5 square meters of inhabitable space. There was barely enough room to stand, and the man had lived there for 15 years. The rent for this minuscule living space was 340 euros a month. When asked how he coped with the accommodations, he told a French radio station, "I come home, I go to bed." Number 11. In underground tunnels. While investigating copper thefts at a nearby grain mill, police in Kansas City, Missouri, discovered an elaborate series of underground tunnels where some of the city's homeless had taken up residence. The tunnels were dug in a wooded area and ventilated with PVC pipe. The entrances were disguised by brush and other debris. One tunnel was as deep as 7.5 meters and led to a room with bedding and candles. Number 10. Living in a shoe house. How can it be possible for an old lady to be living in a shoe? Does a shoe have plumbing, electricity, internet? What about Netflix? How can she fit all her children into a small space? Well, why don't you test it out? Because you can go out and buy your very own little tiny shoe house anytime, which surprisingly are available in abundance around the world. Some people might think you're a little bit weird, but hey, you will have the coolest house on the block. Number 9. Living in a closet-sized apartment. Felice Cohen, a 45-year-old woman who spent more than 5 years in a 90-square-foot apartment in Manhattan, became an internet star after a viral video of her shoebox. Once you enter the apartment, the end wall comes down almost instantly before you even start to wander around. With no kitchen, this professional organizer has managed to live in this apartment quite happily. Living in a shopping mall. Michael Townsend, along with many of his fellow artists, started living in a vacant space in 2003 in a shopping mall located in Rhode Island. The room surprisingly had an electric supply and was completely furnished. They had to use bathrooms located in the shopping mall. Michael and his fellow artists succeeded to go unobserved while living in the hidden space for almost 3 weeks at a time for 4 years. When caught, he was penalized up to 6 months probation after he pleaded guilty to the criminal charge of trespassing. Living in a school bus. Living in a school bus can be a horrible experience, especially if the residents are not even adults. This situation was witnessed by a postal employee in Texas who got disturbed when she noticed 2 messy kids on her way from work. As reported later, the girl and the boy, ages 11 and 5, were homeless and had adopted an abandoned bus parked in a garbage-strewn lot as their home. The school bus had electric power and water, as well as an air conditioner. Living on a mountainside in isolation. In 1978, a team consisting of many geologists discovered a family of 6 people residing in a mountainside several miles away from the nearest residence in the Abakan range of southern Siberia. The family, which was later recognized as the Lykov family, had fled religious torture and oppression in 1936 and lived in isolation for 40 years. In only one room. The family thrived on a diet of primarily vegetables, like potatoes. Number 5. Living inside a Boeing 727. Rich people also get this crazy idea to live far above the ground in unusual places that others don't even like to be in. For example, how about living in a Boeing 727? Bruce Campbell, an engineer by profession, bought a retired aircraft and remade it into an unusual house. The 3-engine commercial airplane is fixed up on a concrete columns in an outlying wooded area outside of Portland, Oregon. The plane home is established above ground with the distinctive features of the plane and house combined under one roof. Number 4. Living in a see-through house. One of the see-through houses is known as the House NA. The House NA is the ultimate see-through house. The structure sits at just over 900 square feet and was created as a throwback to how individuals would live in trees with no walls. The house, made by Via Architecture, has a design that separates it from its peers in the sense of location. It's in a city, tucked in between 2 other normal buildings. There is nowhere to hide. Number 3. Living in the woods. Living in the woods is probably one of the most common, unusual places to live. Living in the woods was a path taken by a hermit in Maine who lived in the same tent in the woods for 27 years. Christopher Knight, or better known as the North Pond Hermit, was arrested in 2013 for committing many minor burglaries. Christopher only spoke to one single person in all those years of living in the woods. After he was arrested, he was transported to Kennebec County Jail, where he spent his first night indoors in almost 2.5 decades. Number 2. Living on a sea fort. The Spitbank retired in 1982 and since has been in the hands of a few private holders until 2010, when the present proprietors bought it. Currently, it has 8 suites, an open-air heated pool, a champagne bar on the rooftop and a spa. A really nice hotel transformation has been done to it since its new owners took charge of it. Number 1. Living in a hobbit hole. Living in a hobbit hole is probably the most interesting place where people have lived in. Dan Price left a very stressful life behind before moving into a hobbit hole. Living in a hobbit hole is strangely scary, but people like Dan couldn't resist moving into one because of numerous financial and social reasons. For the past 10 years, he has been living in a basement-like home in the 80 square foot space that was built into the earth. Dan built this hobbit hole out of scavenged construction material. Could you survive in such conditions? Comment down your thoughts below. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button so you never miss a future upload. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.